men and women that have been sexually abused,
Right.
because they feel safe to talk about it. Because
Yeah.
I've been very open with that story.
Of course.
Mainly because when it happened to me, nobody was talking about this stuff.
Yeah.
So I genuinely thought I was the only person in Northampton, at least, that had been sexually abused by their dad.
Wow.
I knew other people had been sexually abused, but I didn't know anyone that had been sexually abused by their dad. And so I felt like there was something more wrong with me, because why would your dad do that to you? If you were a good enough person, why would your dad do that to you? Because you hear the stories, like boys don't cry. You hear the story, every girl is her dad's princess. You hear that, and it's not true.
Of course.
Because that dad, that man, hasn't been able to be the father.
And unfortunately, it happens more than we think it happens.
Yeah, it does. And the statistics, they say 1 in 4 people are sexually abused in their life.
Don't say that.
The statistics, they're so wrong.
Yeah.
But it is so much more than that.
Yeah, of course.
Because so many people don't talk about it.
Of course.
And the reason I want to say that is because there's so many people carrying that wound.
Yeah.
That
You don't speak up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's such a lot to carry.
Yeah.
Because if you can't talk about it and you can't release it, it's
crippling, isn't it?
It is crippling, yeah.
Before we get into the podcast, I'd like to say a big thank you to our Season 3 sponsors, Lightside Financial Planning. They're a Liverpool-based company, fiercely independent and dedicated to making money conversations easy to navigate. If you'd like a conversation with one of their friendly team members, there's a link to their website in the show notes.
Okay, welcome to Series 3 of the Dare to Be Different podcast. And in this series, I'm going to be interviewing women about their experience with male leadership, and also their opinions and their expectations on male leadership in today's world. So a lot of the women I will be interviewing will be psychologists, psychotherapists, coaches, and women who are really trying to influence change in the world. And today I'm with Ella McCrystal. Ella, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
She's just interviewed me. She just grilled me on her own podcast. I'm actually in Ella's studio, wonderful studio here in Northampton. And it's, thanks for your time, Ella.
No, I'm really, really glad to be able to do something like this with you, especially after just interviewing you, because you're doing some tremendous work. So it's a privilege.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I first saw you on Instagram, and I was drawn to your work because obviously you interview a lot of different people from walks of life, but the interviews I've seen that you've done with men, I wanted to interview you because I sense that you have a reason to want to influence men, and you want men to step up, and you see the catastrophes really of young boys not having leadership role models, and you want to do something about it in your own career. So that's why I wanted to interview you.
Yeah, I mean, I think for a start, men are so important to society, and I think that my fear is that we'll see the collapse of masculinity, and that it's going to be a scary world. I think women and men need each other
for sure,
in so many different ways.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of men in a lot of pain that are scared to talk about that pain. And as a result of that pain, unintentionally, they're hurting people. And then, the women are responding to that in toxic ways. And we're just seeing a really messy time. And I think I really respect men, and I really respect what men can do for women.
Yeah.
And I feel like we all need to soften to each other and lean into each other a bit more and understand each other a bit more.
Yeah.
So I am fascinated by men, really. And I kind of just want to be a support mechanism to bring the two back together in a safe way.
Yeah. What a beautiful mission. Okay, Ella. So, how were you influenced by men growing up? Like, granddads, brothers, friends on the street, father, uncles. What was your what did you download as a young girl growing up about men in life?
Well, I suppose I externalized a lot because my history is that my dad sexually abused me as a child. I've got a brother who's younger than me, And a lot of the men around me at the time, they weren't family. They were people that you'd know in the street.
Yeah.
And so when I say externalized, I sort of made men heroes. So Columbo, I always used to want him to be my dad.
Right.
Just characters on the TV.
Yeah.
So I'd fantasize really about what that dad would feel like, or what that brother would feel like. I didn't really have it. So I didn't have a real tangible experience except for with my dad. But what I will say about that is very early on, and I don't really know why, I was able to be curious about why he was doing what he was doing. So instead of being angry at him, I would feel responsible for him, which kind of leans into maybe why I still do some of the work with men that I do now. There's a sense of responsibility. He wasn't a bad man. There was bad parts, and we've all got bad parts, although some would say we've got no bad parts, but we act in ways that look bad to other people. But beneath that was, I think, somebody that carried a lot of pain and confusion and shame, and projected that in the role of a predator to protect the victim. And although I couldn't have articulated that as young as 7, 8, 9, that there was something in me that knew. And so I guess my relationship with men was either to fantasize the role of father and brother, or to be curious as to why they weren't able to show up. But with that, again, because children don't have the capacity to really separate themselves, there was also a duality of blaming myself for his problems. So it's quite a confusing experience, really. And I don't know whether I would have, and I think I did do this. I don't know whether I stopped myself being angry at him so that I could forgive him in the way that a child would, because I wanted to have a dad. So it was important to me to be able to break through that. But it's a controversial one, because I'm so understanding of people that commit those types of crimes, because I see the layers. I can often get berated for that, because I think a lot of people think if a man hurts a child, there should be, death penalty, and that's it, which I understand, but it doesn't stop the cycle of abuse in the future.
I hear you completely.
Yeah. So that's kind of the experience. My dad's family was Scottish, so they didn't live anywhere near me. My mum didn't really have much family. Her dad had died before I was born. So there were really no strong male figures around me.
Okay. You're working as a psychotherapist now, and in your training, a big component is doing your own work.
Yeah.
Were you able to dig deeper into that? Because I'm imagining that that's one part of your father, and there are other parts of your father as well. But that part of your father, were you able to dig into that and get some clarity and acceptance around that?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, I understood there'd been a sexual assault in his life early on.
Okay.
A stranger in a park, from what I know.
Yeah.
And that was the information I needed, because from that I could try and understand the way the brain would respond. So prior to psychotherapy, I was working at Northampton General Hospital. I was working in the chest clinic, actually, and we'd see a lot of anxiety, because when people can't breathe, it creates a lot of anxiety and a sense of drowning in their own bodies. So I became very curious about the brain then as well, and how the body would affect how people would feel, and they would close down and they wouldn't go out. And if people were going to have lung surgery, the fear of what that would mean, especially because it's breath. So I started to be really curious about those things before I even started my training. Came away from the NHS because I could see that it wasn't going to give me the ability to work with people one-to-one anymore. It started to become more tick box. So by the time I got into doing my own work, I had to let go of a lot of anger towards my mum, actually, because before I could really understand my dad, my mum had stayed with my dad. So from the moment she found out and he admitted what he'd done.
How old were you then?
I was 11 at that point.
Yeah.
So the abuse had gone on for years and years before. It kind of accidentally came out. It wasn't meant to go to the police, but the way it came out at school was I passed a journal to a friend. And that got spread around the class. So of course the teachers saw this journal, and it got taken out my hands then. But when the police took me home after interviewing me that day at the school, the first thing my mum said was that she wasn't sure if she was going to stay with my dad or not. And then they stayed together. So give time reference, I'm 46. So this would have been over 30 years ago, at a time when social services really weren't very involved.
Yeah.
My mum's main aim was to keep the family together. I said to you a couple of minutes ago that her dad had died before I was born.
Yeah.
I think my dad sort of was on the pedestal where her dad would have been. So she couldn't let go. And I don't think she could really, and still to this day, I don't have a relationship with him now, but I don't think she could really understand the impact
Yeah.
of what he'd done.
Right.
And she didn't want to understand the impact because she saw it as more important to keep the family together. But what that meant early on was that I knew I wasn't safe because he would come back.
Yeah.
And he did.
Right.
And he was violent, not sexually abusive again, but he was violent when he came home. So I had to get a lot of work done there first, of why wouldn't she have protected me?
Yeah. Yeah.
Why would she have picked him? And, you know, there was a direct question from me to her once, which is, do you love dad more than you love me? And she said yes, you know, because I'm going to ask the questions. I'm curious. And
How old was you when you asked that question?
I think I was 12 or 13.
Okay.
We had a very difficult relationship. She was very angry with me, and I don't think she was consciously angry with me,
Right.
but she would give me the title of being the problem. I was the problem because I had anger, and girls aren't allowed to be angry. Unless you're crying or being quiet and putting a smile on your face, then you're labelled as a problem. So I was a problem. And that meant that I wanted to escape home because my mum didn't love me. She was going to bring my dad back into the home as quickly as she could.
Yeah.
So I would escape and go and hang out with older boys, drinking, getting myself into more vulnerable positions, which led to more vulnerabilities.
Yeah.
And so a lot of those experiences then, so I was raped at 13 by a 20-year-old because I was in a vulnerable position. And then at 17, I was raped again. I didn't have those boundaries. I didn't have that safety. So I had to get through the anger at her first.
Right.
All the time. And I think she struggled with this. How can you forgive your dad, but you can't forgive me? And I almost saw him as powerless, like something had taken over him. Whereas I saw her as a choice.
Yeah.
Now I don't. I see both of them as being driven by something much deeper.
Yeah.
Her experience was that she didn't have a great relationship with her mum. Her dad became her saviour. So when my dad did what he did, she just couldn't let go of the idea of him being the saviour. And I think both of them were driven by unhealed wounds, their own or from the past.
Yeah.
So when I understood that, I could let go with love. And I would say that I still love them, but I can't have a relationship with them at this moment in time.
Right. Are they still together?
They're still together.
Yeah.
And the reason is I think it does ignite something in me which still needs work. So it was only 9 years ago that I came away from that relationship. So I'd had a relationship with them well, I'd never not had a relationship with them. Some of it was forced, like my mum would make me go and see my dad in prison when I didn't want to.
Yeah.
But I see what she was trying to do. She was trying to sweep it under the carpet and forget it had happened.
Right.
And that was the way then, wasn't it?
Yeah.
You know, culturally, we just put things under the carpet and hoped they would stay there.
Yeah.
But for me, I feel a lot and I do hold things somatically. So it would come out in anger because I wasn't given the space to express. I'd cut a lot as a girl, drink a lot and express anger a lot. So quite a masculine energy in many ways, which is why I can relate to anger in men, because I've kind of experienced not being able to express myself. And the only thing I could do was scream and shout and, hope that somebody would stop. And actually, I don't know if this is the situation for you, but sometimes when you raise your voice or you make a lot of noise or you hurt yourself as a girl or a boy that cuts, it's when someone starts to listen. And so you learn early on that if I do A, B, and C, and then of course that's remembered in the body. So your body and your brain remember that when I screamed or when I cut, someone saw me and someone heard me. And so then it's that repetition, recognition, and you're mapping it in. So I had to get through a lot of that because I didn't have the guidance and support that I think I needed at the time. But I'm kind of glad I didn't have that now, because I don't think I'd be doing the work that I'm doing now without that experience.
Yeah. Wow.
And it's made me have a real desire to make sure that men and women, but especially boys,
Yeah.
are getting the support they need, because otherwise they can become the predator in various different ways as they get older.
Of course.
And so it's really important for me to understand them and learn a lot from boys as well, because as a woman, I don't know what it's like to be a boy.
Yeah.
So I think women need to give that time to young boys as well,
Yeah.
and try to understand them from their perspective and hear them where they're at and learn them.
Yeah. Yeah. Boys are just as sensitive as girls.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And in many ways, more sensitive if they've had to repress
Yeah.
because their dad says you're not allowed to cry, because that builds up that volcano effect.
Of course.
So that builds up more fire, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Whereas girls are at least allowed, we're not allowed to be angry, but we're allowed to talk, we're allowed to express,
Yeah.
we're allowed to have feelings.
Yeah.
So to some degree,
Yeah.
we are allowed to get that out of our system.
Yeah.
And what I've learned with boys really and men is that they need a lot of movement,
Yeah.
which is what we touched on in your interview.
Yeah, for sure.
Is that they do need to move their bodies and have that connection to their body.
Yeah. Movement's key.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks for sharing that. When did the self-harming end?
That took a really long time, actually. What I discovered later on through doing the work was that, again, that cellular mapping, but also the dopamine response. When I'd cut myself, there'd be almost a little high that would come. I now know that's because when you bleed, your brain releases dopamine to give you the motivation to find a place to seek survival. So not only was it breaking the state, in the same way I suppose cold water does, it shocks your system a bit, but I was getting a dopamine response, and people would stop and listen. All of a sudden, whatever it was that they wouldn't hear, because they'd see blood. So I was getting this triad of benefits. So even when I understood that, the habit, which we know is really powerful, would stick around for a bit. And even now, it's an intrusive thought, and I recognise that. Even now, sometimes if I've really struggled to be seen and heard, that a bit like the temptation to have a cigarette, if you were a smoker before, there's certain key points where you want to have a cigarette after a meal, or, you're out socialising, it's a summer's day. Sometimes the temptation to cut is still there, but I just don't do it.
Okay.
But I would self-harm in other ways. So I was a binge eater for a really long time.
Yeah.
I would cut, I would starve myself. Anything, I think, where I could feel some level of pain,
Right.
it was like that took me out of a sense of confusion within myself. Because I think that was the overriding feeling, it was confusion. Because I could understand everybody's point of view, and that's too noisy. It's too noisy to carry your own pain and then understand everybody else. So sometimes that short, sharp physical pain, or starving yourself, or overeating, or whatever, it's just escapism from that space of confusion. So yeah, even now it's tempting, but I do see it as an intrusive thought. So I know there's a lot of work to be done still, and I don't shy away from that, because I think that would be wrong to say that just because we do the work that we don't see the benefit of doing more of our own.
Of course.
So there's still that there, and suicidal ideations are quite strong still, but they are just intrusive thoughts.
Yeah.
So the same way that I might have an intrusive thought that I want to kick the door, but I don't, I can categorize it as that. And I kind of feel like they're little messengers, actually, to remind me to look and to feel and to go back in. So I don't see them as bad things. I see them as little moments where I can pay attention, opportunities.
Yeah.
And then to do the work again.
Yeah. Wow. It sounds like you've turned that initial pain into purpose. Good on you.
Yeah. Yeah. And I
Good
think
on
that's important for all of us.
Yeah.
If that's all we can ever do, is to show people that there's a pathway to purpose through pain.
Yeah.
Then that's most of the bit that I can really do. I can give a lot of neurobiological insights. And
yeah. How did you respond after the episode when you were 13 then? So the abuses happened with your father. It's kind of repeated itself when you were 13.
Yeah.
How was your response to that? And did you attract abusive men after that, or did you learn from it? How were you when you were 14, 15, 16, 17?
That was probably the worst time for me, those teenage years. So I was, it was a friend's brother, and I was in their house, and I just didn't get, I think this is the thing I try to say a lot, especially girls that are perceived to be promiscuous, or who end up getting themselves into a lot of vulnerable situations sexually. I have to remind people that my dad was sexually abusing me. So my red flags around men, and I didn't have men around me, they weren't there. I didn't have that signaling. So if I was around an older boy or an older guy when he was 20 that had ulterior motives, I didn't really feel them. And also and this, I've got to be careful how I say this because I don't want people to get the wrong impression. I wasn't attractive. I'd cut all my hair off. I was overweight. So I wasn't the pretty little girl, you know, the girls that might be a bit princessy.
Yeah.
I didn't think anyone would find me attractive, and I certainly wasn't looking for that.
Yeah.
So I just don't think I realised that the energy was open wide, and I was easy to be manipulated from the position of power. So if someone had a bit of a problem with power and wanted to assert power over me, that's what they saw in me, that it would be easy, and I'd probably keep my mouth shut. And the reason I say that is because Northampton, which is where you are right now, is a small town. In the area I lived in, everybody knew the story. So it wasn't like this was a secret. It'd come out of school. So everybody knew the story. So I think I was just in a position where people could take advantage. And anyway, it's very, very quick. I spilled a drink, went to pick it up, was pushed down. It was a bit violent, to be fair. But I just left, walked home, told a friend, because I was a bit confused as to whether it was my fault, actually.
Yeah.
And she told her mum, and about a week after, her mum shouted slag at me in the street.
Wow.
Now, bear in mind, only a couple of years before I'd gone through this police situation with my dad. And when girls are raped or sexually assaulted seriously internally, you have to have then you had to have an internal exam by a doctor to check for damage.
Right.
So if I'd have gone to the police at that point, I knew I'd have to go through that again.
Yeah.
I knew everybody would be talking about it again. And to be honest, the bullying that I got from being sexually abused by my dad was still quite high at that point. And it was just as I was about to start upper school, because it was a 3-tier system then. And I didn't want to go into upper school with more people talking about my life and those things that had happened. So I didn't tell anybody.
Right.
But I carried it as though I must have done something wrong because my friend's mum had shouted slag at me in the street.
Yeah.
So now remember, I'm the problem at home. So now I've got further confirmation that it's me that causes the problem.
Wow.
So then again, I just became angry, mainly at myself. Like, why am I so disgusting? Why am I so bad? Why am I attracting these people? I look back and I actually think I was attracted to them.
Yeah.
Because I was in that repetition compulsion loop. So I'm trying to prove I can be different this time. I can prove this time that I'm not the one that you're going to want to attack. I'm the one you're going to want to be friends with. So I was always making friends with boys.
Yeah.
Because I always wanted to be their friend. I wanted brothers and I wanted fathers.
Yeah.
But I didn't have a healthy experience, so I was always attracted to the ones that weren't healthy. Having said that, I've got 3 or 4 friends from school, boys, maybe a few more, that I'm still great friends with now.
Right.
And some of my best friends are men.
Yeah.
So it's not to say that it was always a bad experience, but there'd be the odd few that would see the part of me that was easy to bypass. So you've got to be aware of that in yourself, that you are in a repetition compulsion loop, and you have to take responsibility for that at some point without labeling yourself as bad. And it's a really nuanced line of, I'm accountable, but I'm not bad. That's the hard line to learn.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Wow.
A lot of information there.
Yeah. So going into your 20s and beyond.
Yeah.
Have you been married? You know, have you what other experience have you had with so-called male leaders?
Yeah. Okay. So I have had some good relationships and some bad relationships. I'm now attracted to men that are safe, but I also still, and I've got some great friends,
Mm.
and I feel that men can see me as a great friend as well. Whereas that took a really long time
Yeah.
for me to get that right, because I could never tell whether they wanted friendship or whether they wanted something more. And some people would say they only want you for sex, or, and you'd hear this from other women as well.
Right.
Oh, you can't possibly have a friend that's a man. He's going to want you for sex. And then he's going to, so it would stop me then making friends with them. And some did do that.
Yeah.
And so I would have a lot of those types of relationships where I thought we were friends. And then I'd realize they want more, and I'd feel like I'd led them on. So I felt there was an obligation.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But then I've had some safe relationships as well.
Mm.
So the obligation was the biggest thing I had to learn. Not just because that's what they've seen you as, it doesn't mean you're obliged to give it to them.
Mm.
But I felt that if I didn't give them something they wanted, then they wouldn't stay. They wouldn't be my friend anymore.
Right. Right.
And then of course you fall in love, and you know, you think that you'll hold back a bit. You'll eventually think, okay, I feel safe now.
Yeah.
You'll have sex, and then they're gone.
Yeah.
So there's so much to learn about.
Yeah.
And I think now it's just about being honest. And
Yeah.
I say this to all women, actually. Just say what you want from the start. Don't leave any
Yeah.
room for confusion.
Mm.
Be very clear about what you're looking for. I think dating apps have got a lot to answer for, because there's a lot of messing around on dating
Of
apps.
course.
I think people just need to be really clear from the moment. I'm looking for
Yeah.
something serious. I'm not.
Yeah.
I want a bit of fun. You know, whatever it
Yeah,
is.
for sure.
It's the games that people play that are confusing.
Yeah.
So I think for me, you mentioned there about taking some time on your interview to really get to know yourself. That's the most important thing for me, is just to really
Yeah.
know myself and
Yeah.
really feel what's going on in my body.
Yeah.
Because I think even in long-term relationships, I still see, I do a lot of work with couples, they're still confused, even after 20 years,
For
about how
sure.
they feel about each other,
Yeah. Yeah.
because they don't take time away from each other. So relationships have been, they've been up and down. They've been confusing. Some have been very, very safe.
Mm.
Some have been very, very scary. Friendships, I think I've got right. I know how to do that. And there's still a lot of learning to do with the intimacy side of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I said on my pod, one of the best things I did was, well, like, I took longer than 7 months, but me and a friend, we actually recruited a therapist
Yeah.
for 7 months. We did a session with her every 2 weeks, and we created a container, and we called it the sacred pause.
Mm.
Zero, no porn, no flirting in coffee shops, no flirting with eyes, no getting dopamine hits from the feminine on social media, etc. It was a real kind of inner journey, and she helped us to also move through some challenges that were coming up, but also navigate how we'd been showing up in relationship, the shadows that still come up, and projecting into the future how we want to show up and what we bring, and how we're going to approach our first date, and so on and so on and so on.
And what's the drive as well?
Yeah.
What are you really trying to get?
Yeah.
Because that repetition compulsion, and that work's so important, because there's somebody else going, I'm seeing something, or I'm hearing something there. Are you aware that that's coming out?
Yeah, exactly.
Because I think validation's got so much to do with sex, hasn't it?
For sure.
For both sexes,
sure.
both genders.
For sure.
Is I'm enough if I see that in your eyes in that moment of intimacy.
Yeah.
But if I don't, then I'm not enough.
Mm.
Or, you know, if you don't want me in that way, if you
Yeah.
don't find me attractive, then I'm not enough. So it's trying to get past that need for validation and go deeper into connection.
And recognizing, which I didn't realize, how needy I'd been, was like, oh my God, you know.
I know.
You know, I was telling myself that I want to be in a relationship all the time, because that's where my growth is, and I love sex, and man, there was so much neediness.
Yeah, yeah.
Such a great piece of work to do something like that, you know.
But you've got to be, I mean, that says a lot about you, because you've got to, I mean, that is deep work
to
do that.
Yeah.
and to really step away
I
from.
still haven't been on a date yet. 15 months.
I know. And that's great though, because it means that you've got more
Yeah, there's
balance.
no attachment, you know,
Yeah. So when you meet the person, it's that love without attachment,
in
which is
theory.
so in theory, but you don't know, do you, until you're
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
But at least you've got enough self-awareness
Yeah.
and practice at going deeper within.
Yeah. I'm glad I did it. I'm glad I
Yeah.
did it. Let's talk a bit about your work.
Yeah.
Um, but around men,
Mm.
like, what are men bringing to you? Obviously, without naming any names, or what kind of challenges are men bringing to you, and how do you help them deal with that?
Addictions is a big one, but also they may have been labelled as narcissistic by their.
For sure, that goes on a lot.
It goes on a lot.
My ex got me to do a profile.
To check.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She was higher than me.
That's the hilarious thing, isn't it? But it's a big one at the minute.
Yeah.
Because people don't really understand the complexities of personality disorders.
Mm-hmm.
So they'll say, I mean, I can be narcissistic. We all can. We can all be manipulative. We've all got the dark side, haven't
For
we?
sure.
I try not to be now, but it does come out. It does. And I have to be mindful of it and watch it. But I don't like this thing where women say, I think you're a narcissist. I think you should go and see a therapist. And I'll always say this, if someone's truly a narcissist, the chances of them actually going to see a therapist are very, very low because they don't have any desire to change. But I think what happens with men is they're raised by men. I mean, especially the men that I'm seeing that are probably between 24 to maybe 64. That's
Oh, wow.
probably the window
Wow.
that I'm seeing at the moment, more often than not. The 24-year-olds are being raised by my age group or a little bit older. And then the others have come from parents that would have had parents in the war and,
Yeah.
you know, those epigenetics.
Yeah.
So I find that those men are carrying a lot of traits of narcissism, a lot of problems with expressing emotion. They might actually have quite strong OCD traits as well. I'm not saying the full disorder, but they tend to need everything in a controlled way.
Yeah, a controlled process driven way.
Yes. So I'd say I see that a lot. And then the addiction is that they're struggling to manage all of that. So they're escaping with, cocaine, alcohol.
Yeah.
MDMA is a big one at the minute as well. So that's what's coming to the table. But then I start to use, so I've put three things together in my process: EMDR, hypnotherapy, and free association. And I've created, so the process is free flow analysis. So it looks a bit like hypnosis because their eyes are closed, but they're just in a seated position like this. I get them to be as comfortable as possible, but I don't necessarily do an induction with them. But by taking the eyes away and depraving them of that sensory input, over a few minutes, they start to go deeper within themselves. And then we use bilateral stimulation, which comes from EMDR, and just free association. So the blend of all of that is to start to, I mean, you mentioned on yours about the embodiment of the fetal position, to get more comfortable, to sink into the body, to catch the breath when something difficult comes up, to breathe with them, but just to allow them then to have that curiosity. And sometimes I'll use suggestions with it as well. So that's where it becomes more hypnotic. So instead of it being talking as in, how do you feel? What do you want to achieve? What are your goals? We do a little bit of that, the planning.
Well, talking's still an aspect of somatics,
Of
isn't it?
course, yeah, it still needs to be done, but it just shouldn't be I feel it shouldn't be the only focus. So with the bilateral work, which comes from the way the brain uses REM sleep to collate information and apply the emotional processing, we're just desensitizing and reprocessing using bilateral. So what you're starting to do with repetition and neurons firing and wiring together is they're starting to get a deeper insight into their subconscious. So it's more interesting actually as well, because there's bits that come up. It might just be a visual that they've had. And I always reference this one with a guy where he was in a rock pool, but the rocks were really, really high. The water was quite pleasant, a bit cold. And he didn't feel like he needed to get out. but he also saw that the rocks were so high that he felt somewhat trapped,
Right.
but not as though there was imminent danger.
Uh-huh.
And he didn't know what it was about. And I sort of suggested to him that his relationship was a happy one, but he wasn't completely fulfilled.
Right.
And that came just from those visuals and the things that I'd known before. So it's just those insights that we gain through doing that kind of work, which then leads on to the program work. And I do believe in processes like EMDR and hypnotherapy. They're the ones I'm trained in.
Yeah.
And they're the ones that I see a lot of profound shifts with. And I think it's also the relationships that you build.
Of course, yeah.
So I think they can see that I've got a lot of empathy and desire to understand them. Because for you, working with men, they're going to know quite quickly that you understand as much as anyone can where they're coming from. Whereas with me, it's quite interesting because obviously I'm coming from a more feminine perspective.
Yeah.
But quite quickly, I think they realise that I actually want to learn who they are.
Yeah.
So in many ways, they can almost come with a blank canvas in that respect.
Of course.
And they can say, I can say, let's paint the picture together of who you'd like to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's almost like choosing the self rather than having to go back or go forward.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's creating the landscape that you want to look at. And I think maybe they choose a woman to work with because they have had issues with the mother or they don't feel safe with other men. So that's kind of the men that I'm bringing in.
Okay. And you've been doing this for a while, right?
20 years, yeah.
Do you find that you're much more intuitive now?
Definitely. And I
Me
think
too.
that I feel like I've really opened up in the last few years, actually, probably when COVID happened and we had to go online for a bit, not for very long, but I did have to go online. I really had to feel things in a different way. And I hadn't really done any online work up until that point. And it felt really uncomfortable at first. But I recognised that was an opportunity for me to be more intuitive and to really feel more and go into energy. And I've become much more energy-based since understanding how to tap into those things. So that intuitive part of me has opened up so much in the last few years. And I always question, I think it was always there, but I don't think I felt safe in my own body.
Yeah.
So I think it's over the last few years that I've started to feel safer. And I don't know if that's a hormonal shift as well.
Right.
So being 46, they say perimenopause starts about 10 years before your menopause. That means that I could have been in perimenopause by about 39, 40.
Right. You think that might have initiated you into your body more?
I think so, because I think I was always quite progesterone dominant and estrogen dominant. I think I was always, because I know that with women, and this is maybe of interest to people, we produce hormones through our adrenal glands and our ovaries, whereas men are just testicles. So when we have high levels of stress, and obviously there was early childhood trauma with me, I think I was producing so much cortisol in that stress response that it was affecting my female hormones. And I think that left me very erratic. So for 2 weeks of every month, I would be agitated. I mentioned being angry before, but suicidal, wild. I just wanted to escape. I wanted to die.
Right.
And so I spent 50% of my life feeling agitated, angry, and wanting to die. And then there was just this calming of the system. And I wonder if it was because, one, I was less stressed, but two, maybe the changing of those hormones allowed me to go more into that intuition, which made me feel a bit sad at the time, thinking, was this just something I didn't know? I didn't understand how much my female hormones were creating more of this problem. And I think that's something that we're starting to look at more now in women. Female health hasn't been discussed a lot.
Yeah.
So, in fact, it hasn't been studied a lot.
Yeah.
So we're only just starting to understand the female health aspect.
Right.
So whilst I'm doing a lot of work with men and learning about men, I'm also learning more about the female side of things as well, which is what I said at the beginning. I've got this real desire to help men and women understand each other a bit.
Yeah.
Because if we can understand the endocrine system and the hormonal systems and the traumas that we all carry, be that epigenetically or be that our own, I think we'd all be more willing to see each other and hold space for each other.
For sure. That's definitely where I'm at. I want to sit. I've sat in so many circles with men, you know.
Yeah.
I want to sit in circles with men and women. I went on a retreat not long ago in Costa Rica, and it was a mixed retreat.
Lovely.
And there was one process we did where the men sat in circle and the women surrounded us, and we shared the struggles of being a man and being a boy. And the women were like, "Oh my God, And then we swapped.
Mm.
And they were showing about the struggles of being a woman and being a girl. And oh my God, so much reverence.
Was there a lot of tears?
Yeah. But so much reverence. It's like, oh my God. Understanding each other.
Yeah.
That's definitely where I am in my personal evolution. I want to sit with more women,
Yeah.
you know?
I think it's how we become better women and better men,
Yeah.
to understand the
Yeah.
other side, because we are both masculine and feminine. And if we can't understand each other, we will never fully understand ourselves.
Yeah, for sure.
And I would say, like I said earlier, I've had quite a lot of strong masculine energy. It's what's protected me.
Yeah.
It's kept me. I always thought I was very, very strong because I would present with the anger and the aggression. And actually, I was just like a lot of men do, covering up a lot of shame and guilt, because that was probably been the fundamental emotion that I've carried: guilt,
Right.
feel responsible for everything and everyone. But that was going back to my dad. I felt responsible for him.
Right.
So I've carried a lot of guilt, even the fact that it was revealed, because I gave a journal to someone I sort of opened up that can of worms.
Yeah.
Having said that, he was abusing me.
Of
But you
course.
see, even my language now, I have to correct myself.
Yeah.
I opened up the can of worms by, it's still there.
Yeah.
I catch myself quickly, and I have to, because I'm talking to other people that have been abused a lot.
Yeah.
That's the other thing that I attract: men and women that have been sexually abused,
Right.
because they feel safe to talk about it. Because
Yeah.
I've been very open with that story.
Of course.
Mainly because when it happened to me, nobody was talking about this stuff.
Yeah.
So I genuinely thought I was the only person in Northampton, at least, that had been sexually abused by their dad.
Wow.
I knew other people had been sexually abused, but I didn't know anyone that had been sexually abused by their dad. And so I felt like there was something more wrong with me, because why would your dad do that to you? If you were a good enough person, why would your dad do that to you? Because you hear the stories, like boys don't cry. But you hear the story, every girl is her dad's princess. You hear that, and it's not true.
Of course.
Because that dad, that man, hasn't been able to be the father.
And unfortunately, it happens more than we think it happens.
Yeah, it does. And the statistics, they say 1 in 4 people are sexually abused in
don't
their
say
life.
that.
The statistic, they're so wrong.
Yeah.
But it is so much more than that.
Yeah, of course.
Because so many people don't talk about it.
Of course.
And the reason I want to say that is because there's so many people carrying that wound.
Yeah.
That
You don't speak up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's such a lot to carry.
Yeah.
Because if you can't talk about it and you can't release it, it's
crippling, isn't it?
It is crippling, yeah.
Yeah.
It is. You'll never, and even and I say honestly, it scars you. And that's why I still have to do the work. And I'll always have to do the work. But I almost see that as a privilege, because doing the work is profoundly beautiful when you hit on something and you go, oh gosh, now it makes sense.
And then you can bring it into your work as well, can't you?
Yes. So I think that's why I talk about it. But yeah, I do think the statistics are way off, unfortunately. But with that, not that it's any comfort to anyone, but it makes us all a bit more normal.
Yeah.
Because we've all been through something.
Yeah.
It's not exclusive to you or to me. And if it's not exclusive to you or to me, and lots of people have been through lots of different pain, then it's just part of the human experience, rather than part of you not being enough.
Of course.
But of course, when you're developing and you haven't got your ego boundaries and you haven't got your complex thinking yet, between 0 and 7, when that prefrontal cortex hasn't fused yet, no filter. It's me. I'm bad. They're my parents. That they are me. So if they hurt me, then it's me.
Yeah.
If they love me, then it's me.
Yeah.
If they don't, it's all my fault.
Of course.
And especially when you've got siblings and you believe that they're being treated differently, because we are treated differently because we're all individuals.
Yeah.
You can't intellectualize at that point that especially if you've got an older brother, or, you're a boy that sees the older brother gets all the medals at football, all the girls, and you're the younger brother, or could be middle brother, and you're not getting the same attention.
And if you've studied family systems, which you probably have, and I have a little bit.
Yeah, love
the
it.
family's an organism, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, yeah.
It's like if you've got 2 kids, normally there's a golden child, there's a dark child. There's such a balance within that organism, isn't there?
Yeah. And sometimes you're kind of forced into that position because it's expected of you.
Yeah.
So you don't get a choice until you reflect.
Yeah.
But it's very interesting, this field of work.
For sure.
And there's always something more to learn.
Yeah.
But yeah, so with men, I think it's just for me, it's a more of a curiosity and a desire to love men.
Yeah.
And to be loved in the right way.
Beautiful. Can we talk about frustrations?
Yes.
So in your adult life, in relationships with men, I don't know, boyfriend, husband, I don't know if you've been married, boyfriend, husband, uncle, boss, any type of man, friends, what are you frustrated at? Like, what is it that frustrates you about the behaviour of men? Still going on. The men that you've had
Close
some kind of
relationships.
relationships with.
Yeah. I think when there's a pain that needs to be expressed, not necessarily in an aggressive way, but if I was trying to explain to you, for example, that there's something that I'm feeling, it's when men, as a defense mechanism,
Shut you down.
Yeah. And might even
flip it.
Flip it. And
Oh
might even
man,
be
tell me
angry.
about it.
And if you're a delicate person who's all, and for me, actually growing up and even now, I'm more likely to be able to carry that and go, okay, I'll take the blame because I'm used to doing that. So then that goes back into that confirmation bias, which is there must be something in me that will not allow them to hold that space for me. It must be me. Now I can do a bird's eye view and go, it's not personal. This is an opportunity for you to learn something. But if you're not in that place as a woman, it's really detrimental, especially if you've had vulnerability. And to be honest, if you've had a lot of vulnerability around men, you're likely to be attracted to men that will do that.
Yeah.
So I do think it's the being shut down and then it is flipped and projected back at you.
Yeah.
That's painful.
The transformation of that in my work, for every single man that I've worked with, including me, that is the work. That is the gold right there.
Yeah.
Where, as an example, you're bringing something which, for whatever reason, I might perceive as a judgment, or you're not happy, or there's something wrong with me, or I'm bad. But me as a man having the capacity to stay rooted into the ground, receive you, be with the uncomfortableness of my body, and just let you speak until that trigger dissolves. That is the work right there.
So powerful.
Because every time a man, including me, flips it, checks out, doesn't listen, is on the phone, projects anger back on you, blames you, defends himself, interrupts you, every time that happens, you don't feel safe, do you?
No. And I can see it as a defense. You can see it as defense. But it's like, I suppose if you're in a long-term relationship, it's how many times do we have to have this conversation? You know, I think that's what happens for both parties. How many times have I got to say, stop being so defensive? How many times do you feel like I'm attacking? Because often, and I think this is the misconception, men will feel attacked and they'll defend. Whereas the woman feels like they're just trying to express an emotion.
Yeah.
And they don't feel like they're being attacking. But to be fair, a lot of women do that thing of, you made me feel. If you hadn't have done this,
Yeah, of course,
you've let me down.
Of course. Yeah.
So of course, if you communicate in that way as a woman, the man will defend and he will be angry because you're making him feel by saying that, or you're igniting a trigger that says, so I am a piece of shit. I'm not good enough for you. Because I'd imagine there's a lot of fear in a lot of men that they're simply not good enough.
Yeah.
And that these women are going to find another man.
Yeah.
And a lot of men have actually said to me, you don't know how easy it is, Ella. You can walk out there and, you know, chat a man up. And it's because men are driven biologically to want to procreate. They'll say yes to, this is what they say to me.
Yeah.
They'll say yes to pretty much anyone. And I'm like, well, thanks. It's not much of a compliment, but still. Whereas they'll say it's so hard for us to meet someone. And so I think there's that innate fear.
There is. That does exist.
Yeah. And they perceive that women just go out and bat their eyelids and you can just pull a So it's not as simple as that.
Of course.
Because you've got to actually be attracted to the man in the first place. You've got to feel safe with him.
Yeah.
And you've got to want to put the energy into, you know, building that relationship and avoid being hurt again. So it's not that simple. In terms of sexual behaviour, maybe it is, I don't know. But in terms of relationships and safety, I think we're all experiencing the same thing.
Yeah.
But you're right, and that goes both ways. But if men can just go, this is just how she feels. This isn't necessarily the truth,
Yeah.
but she needs me to hear it.
Yeah.
I don't need to defend it.
Yeah.
Learning that,
Yeah.
and conversely, women learning to say, I feel.
Yeah.
I very much doubt you've meant to hurt me. So
Yeah.
I don't believe that was your intention, but I feel if we could just learn those little tricks of the
Of
trade and
course. I mean, we should learn them in
communication.
school, really, shouldn't we? But we don't.
Absolutely.
So the work you're doing with couples is just incredibly
Yeah.
important.
Yeah. But also I think when I'm working with couples, I always try to say, like, let's individualize and then go, we can't fix the relationship if you can't look at the parts within. So you mentioned family systems. I love a bit of IFS as well, internal family systems,
Yeah.
Richard Schwartz. Great model. And to use those, I mean, he uses parts, but again, you mentioned archetypes. I don't know if it was this episode or the one before.
Yeah.
But to look at those archetypes or parts within and recognize the integration, how important that is, and not be ashamed. You know, a lot of people, I think, feel all therapists should be a blank canvas. I actually feel like it's really important for me to say, here are my flawed parts,
Yeah.
which I'm aware of. I'm trying, and I do love them, but I'm trying each day to love them more.
Yeah.
And to not carry shame around the self-harm or the anger and those things that I've exhibited before, and to see it as a form of expression when I didn't know what I know now and didn't feel what I feel now. Understanding all of those different elements to the female system, the hormones, you know, the epigenetics, and then being able to be proud of surviving and wanting to be curious and wanting to learn more. When someone's in that space, then you can start integrating the couple back in.
Yeah.
But I think you've got to individualize and then do collective work.
Yeah.
Not in all cases, but in a lot of cases.
There's something coming up for me that relates to this that I want to share as well. You know, we're talking about that, and it's men and women, but again, in my experience, because men find it harder to feel what's going into the body, they're more likely to fight or flight when they perceive that there's an attack or they're being judged or the shame's being exposed or the guilt's being exposed. And I know there's a skill involved here, the skill of communicating needs to each other. However, I had a realization with my therapist when I was going through this container that I told you about not long ago, because in my last relationship, me and my ex, we had all the models. We had all the communication models, you know, do you have a minute? Yeah, is now a good time? When you did that, it made me feel like that. And what I want is that. We did all that. But I had a big realization not long ago that from a place of control, I used to project that onto my partner the whole time. Don't speak to me like that. You know what I mean? Ask permission. I'm not ready. Can we check in every Wednesday? Can we go through that model? And I had a huge realization. And the realization was, Craig, you have a fucking responsibility, right, to feel your feelings when you're in a relationship and it gets a little bit conflicting, right? Because if you genuinely love another person and she loves you, right, if she judges you or she makes a request or she gets angry with you or she wants you to step up and do something better, it's because she fucking loves you. You don't need to say to her, don't talk to me like that. So I'm looking forward to my relationship because you have every right, if you want the best from me and you want to help to initiate me into a greater version of me, you have every right to be upset or to get pissed off or to judge me or to catch me out or to point something at me that I can't see myself. It's my responsibility to feel it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Instead of sugarcoating it, well, can we use the communication model here?
Yes.
You know, I've got a responsibility to feel your passion and feel your anger and feel your disappointment.
Yeah.
As an arrow of love, really.
Because it's an opportunity again, isn't it?
So that's the next step for me. I've got all the communication models in the world, you know, that I can pull out if I need to.
Yeah.
And maybe we can have an agreement that we do that at times. We have a check-in, but in the heat of, I'm not going to say in the heat of battle, in the heat of love, it's such an opportunity for me as a man just to feel everything.
I must admit, and I don't like
You know,
check-ins. I don't like that. Let's every Wednesday have a time to talk because I
it
feel like it's not organic.
it used to piss my partner off.
Yeah.
She used to think I was trying to control her,
Well, it
and I
is
get it. I
control.
get it.
It is control. It's not a flow state.
I get it.
It's not in the moment. So if you try and save an emotion, but it goes back to what you were saying,
Mm,
because men do find it harder to feel. That's just the way it is.
yeah.
So I understand why a man would request that time because I don't want
Mm,
to deal with this on a Tuesday when the football's on.
of course.
You know, I don't want to deal with this on a Friday night when I'm going out with my mates.
Yeah.
Wednesday is a good time for me.
Yeah.
But it's control. So for the female in that who feels it all, not always, but you know, often we're much more, our processing for emotions is different.
Yeah.
Um, it's not organic. So you're
Mm,
not going to get, you're
mm,
going to get, and whether this is conscious or not, you're going to get someone who's a bit pissed off that here we are, it's a Wednesday, I've had to save all this up for a week. And then I've had to say, right, I'm going to be really careful how I say this.
of
Because
course.
so the flow state's so important. So important.
Yeah, I hear.
And again, going back to the school thing, teaching a boy to sit with emotion and to sit with his body and to not be frightened of that fire that burns inside because it can feel fiery, can't it? But
Yeah.
equally, sitting with a girl and saying, it's actually okay for you to be able to express what you want to say. But as women, because we are emotional, we
Yeah.
also need to understand the capacity
Yeah,
of the opposite sex
of course.
because that's important.
Yeah.
We can't always be like, well, I would do this
Yeah.
and I would say that. So the fact that you can't do that means that you're rubbish.
Yeah.
You know, it's what is my partner capable of? And actually, if your partner isn't capable of holding space for you and that's what you need, you have to make a decision whether that relationship's right. Sometimes it comes to that point.
Yeah.
Obviously, try first.
Yeah.
But I think too many people stick it out because of what other people think.
Mm.
And yeah, I think the judgment of this idea of 2.4 children, it still runs through
it's crazy, innit?
society, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And if I haven't achieved 2.4 children,
Yeah.
if I'm not married with kids and I don't own my own home, you know, 2 up, 2 down or whatever it is, then I'm a failure. So people stay in their relationships because they're petrified that people will see them as a failure.
Yeah.
The flow is gone.
Yeah, for sure.
The organic relationship is no longer.
Yeah, I like that you brought it back to flow state and how important that is in a relationship.
Yeah, so important. Some would say it's not realistic, but it's not realistic within their framework.
Yeah.
So it's whether you're willing to step outside the comfort of the framework to really feel each other. I guess I've got a question. I know it's your episode, but I'd be interested.
Yeah.
Do you feel like men and women can ever fully align? Because that's what I'm, you know, curious about. I want to bringing men and women back together in that way. Do you feel they can ever fully align?
Yeah, but I do think we need tribes.
Yes.
I do think you need your woman tribe and I need my man tribe.
Yeah.
And then we come back.
Yeah,
For
absolutely.
sure. Or you have your friend tribe and I have my friend tribe and then we come back.
Yeah, fulfilled.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you expect me to be your lover, your personal trainer, your consultant, your counsellor, your masseur.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's too much pressure on each other.
Yeah, there is.
Each other.
Yeah. It's enmeshment, isn't it?
Yeah.
Which is unhealthy.
Yeah. I also think, even though I just, and this has come to me now, said that I want to feel, I think there's something really wise about having an agreement in a relationship that before we repair or before we broach any conflict, we just say, hey, are you in your body?
Yeah, good one.
You know?
Yeah.
Are we in our body? Well, no, but give me 2 minutes. Yeah, I'm ready. I think that's smart.
Yeah, I do.
You know?
I think that's really important, actually.
Yeah. So, Ella, just some quick fire questions to finish, right? One word that could encapsulate mature male leadership.
I think it's wisdom. I think it's wisdom. I mean, if I was going to pick 2 words, I'd say grounded wisdom, but wisdom, really.
Yeah. You can have 3.
Oh, I'd say, well, I'd go for grounded wisdom. No, grounded wisdom in flow, because I think if you can be in that flow state using which is hard when you're a young man, because,
course.
our prefrontal cortex doesn't really develop until the mid-20s, but wisdom, grounded, inflow. I think that's, wow, that's a very powerful man.
Yeah, for sure.
Mm.
What's one book on leadership that has influenced you?
One book on leadership. That's a tough one.
Or self-healing, evolution, growth?
I love Ramdas.
Ah,
Now, he does audios rather than.
yeah.
I love Walking Each Other Home, which for me has been profound in accepting death, which I know you might think, well, what's that got to do with leadership? But actually, it's about truly living. So I think if you're a true leader, you're in that space. But his other collection of works, which was Becoming Nobody, I think if you're a true leader, they're really good books to go to. They don't focus on leadership so much. They focus
course.
on self and the experience of self. But that, to me, is someone that's a true leader.
Great. If you could give one message to a man that wants to step up in the world as a leader of some description, from a woman's perspective, what would that message be?
I think to be able to see that it's not personal. So if you're in an encounter with a female particularly and she's upset,
It's not personal.
it's not personal. Yeah. If you can step away from the idea that this is personal, it doesn't matter how personal it feels. If you can understand that this is an expression of her experience rather than a direct message to you about who you are, I think that goes a long way, as well as doing the grounding work. It isn't personal.
What beautiful mantras to finish. I think I might get that tattooed on my forehead.
Yeah.
So that when I look in the mirror, it reflects back at me every day.
It's true, though. Nothing's personal. We've just got to separate for a moment.
Yeah.
Rise up to the wise mind and really see it from a slightly different perspective.
Yeah.
And then just be willing to be introspective and reflective post-event. But that's so important. It helps me when someone's angry at me, is to see their inner child and think there's something going on here and it's not personal.
Yeah.
Does it hurt? Yes, but that's just an opportunity for me to go back to self.
One thing I've not asked you about, which I want to end on, because, you know, that would have been a nice ending, but it's just come to me now, is, you know, we've spoke about somatics, we spoke about therapy, we spoke about EMDR, some of your other work, some beautiful scientifically validated methods now in psychotherapy. Yeah, the discussion we're having around, you know, feeling and stopping and not taking it personal and requires awareness. Where does meditation fit into the work that you kind of prescribed for yourself and for others?
I love a bit of meditation, and I trained in meditation as well. For me, I found it really, really difficult to stop. And when I trained in hypnotherapy, one of the first questions was, how do you relax? This is 20 years ago. And I remember thinking, I don't know what relaxation is. And then I found water, not necessarily getting in it, although I do like that as well, but just sitting near water and the sound of it and the movement of it. And I could escape my mind just from being near water. And it was at that point that I became more fascinated by the idea of meditation.
Great.
So I always try and teach people, especially if they're scared to try, because a lot of people go, oh, I've tried before and I can't get out of my head.
Yeah.
I say, try and use the sensory experiences, whatever it is, be it sounds, be it visuals.
Yeah.
And just do it for 30 seconds at a time.
Yeah.
And just start there and see what happens. Make a note of what happens and turn that 30 seconds into a minute, that minute into 2 minutes, and build it up gradually, take the pressure off. So for me to have that stillness, be it for 2 minutes, be it for 5 minutes, be it for 45 minutes, to feel the breath moving through my body, it just reminds me that I'm connected to something much, much greater. I mean, I'd say God. I don't necessarily believe in a religious text as such, but there's something much bigger than me before, and there'll be something much bigger than me after. And I always feel connected when I'm around water and when I'm breathing. So for me, it's a reminder to balance the ego and to not worry too much about the things that we are a speck of dust, if that, in this universe. And meditation always brings me back to that space.
Yeah, me too.
I think it's so important for people.
Yeah, bring you back to a home.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thanks. I love that little explanation there and your experience with meditation.
Thank you.
And thanks for your dedication here. I know that you speak from the heart because you want to influence people to be
Yeah.
able to transform and heal. So thanks for your courage. Thanks for sharing your story. Thanks for sharing us about some of your experiences with men in your life.
Yeah.
And thanks for giving us that little pearl of wisdom there around not taking it too personal.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah.
It's been a real privilege, and I really appreciate you doing the work that you're doing,
Yeah.
and for interviewing the women as well, because that's, as we've both said, it's so important to integrate everybody back together.
For sure. So where can my viewers find you?
So I'm Ella McCrystal on Instagram.
Yeah.
I've got At the New Mind on YouTube. LinkedIn Ella McCrystal, although I'm not actually that big on there at the minute. Yet I'm working on it. And then Spotify, Apple, it's The New Mind.
Great. Yeah, check out Ella's podcast. It's really, really professional and really insightful.
Thank you.
So thank you so much.
Thank you.